Welcome back, guys, to HearthstonePower 2.0. That's right, I am back. The baby just turned 5 months old. We're starting to put into bed earlier, so I finally have a life again, kind of. So I have a little bit more time at night to record videos since I get home from work at about 5 or 6 p.m. So that's working out so far. It's been a great time with the baby, but I miss making content for you guys. I still have been playing Hearthstone on and off. It's been pretty much all on the iPad, a little bit on the computer where I can, a couple minutes a day. So I've still been around, I've still been keeping up with the meta and all that stuff, but yeah, I'm excited to make content for you guys again. So today I figured we'd get back into it with a pretty straightforward video. We're going to do a deck tech on RDU's Frozen Mage deck. It's really fun to play. It's a little challenging sometimes, although people will debate that it's challenging. It's basically stall and then spells to the face, but that's okay. I'm sure there's other videos out there where they explain this deck, but at least you can watch me playing it and get my opinions. Alright, so here's the deck list. I think this is pretty much the exact deck list. The only thing I think that was different before he made it to the finals was I think there wasn't a Thalnos, there was something else. I can't really remember. But yeah, so let's go over the individual cards and we'll play some games after that. So you have the typical Ice Lance in there for your combo. At the end, you have Ice Lance plus Frostbolt to do massive damage, and if you happen to have spell power on the board with Thalnos or an Azure Drake, which is kind of rare, but it happens, it's massive damage. So that's why Ice Lance is there. And then you have all the cards that delay your defeat. Stuff like Mirror Image, stuff like Doomsayer, which is a fantastic card against decks like Zoo. You play something like Frost Nova plus a Doomsayer, and that pretty much just wrecks most boards. But if you play a Doomsayer on turn like 2 or 3 against Zoo, if they can't kill it, you just completely gain tempo, because they can't lay anything down that turn, and Zoo relies on maintaining board control and tempo. So what other delay cards do we have here? Ice Barrier, kind of. It doesn't really gain you any board advantage. It's kind of like a heal card, but make sure you play it earlier on if you're playing something against like a mage, because I've actually been able to play Ice Barrier and the mage just didn't even trigger it the entire game. So try to get that off on an attack early on to gain some armor. It also helps against Alexstrasza when you're playing against the mirror match. Ice Block is pretty straightforward. It just prevents you from dying. Obviously it fails to hunters playing Flare. So what I've been doing is you bait out, you don't play Ice Block at all, unless you have like 2 in your hand. Bait out the Flare, play an Ice Barrier only, or an Ice Block only, and let them bait it out. Now if it is the final turn for you to live, and then they play the Flare, obviously there's nothing you can do about that. That's one of those like hard counter decks if they get the Flare. Vaporize is another stall tactic. It's really good against Miracle Rogue or Druid when they play their big creatures. This is really nice to have. I only include the one because sometimes, usually you're faced against a whole board of creatures, not just one. In that case, it just prevents like 4 damage or something like that. So then you've got Blizzard to stall the board. It's pretty self-explanatory there. And so those are your survival cards. Then you go back to maintaining your card advantage. You need to make sure that you have a bunch of cards in your hand at all times, because when you combo off or when you have to respond to a board, you want as many options as you can. So Thalnos is in there because it's obviously good with spell damage, but it's also has a really good death rattle effect, and then it draws you a card. Loot Hoarder, same concept, not as good obviously as Thalnos, but that's why he's there. He's also there to get rid of maybe some Druid armor or some Warrior armor, or as removal against creatures. What else do we have here? Arcane Intellect is an obvious include. Pretty self-explanatory there. Icoladopane's really nice in that you can ping him and draw cards off of him, so that's why he's there. Azure Drake's kind of is there for draw, but it's also a decent board presence. But yeah, Azure Drake plus like a Frost Nova or something like that on turn 8. And then if this guy can survive, your Flame Strike or your Blizzard will hit even harder. So I like doing that. I like when I can get some kind of spell power on board before I play Blizzard. So Azure Drake is good for that. And he also cantrips, which is good. Flame Strike, I've been looking at Flame Strike. I kind of want to add another one. I always am on the fence about this. And then I add it and then I take it out because you feel like you get stuck with 2 in your hand. But it's such a good card for moving all the minions on the board. And if you can combo it with a Thalnos, you're pretty much removing all the creatures on the board. So Flame Strike is a really nice reset. So that's why 1's in there at least. Alexstrasza is pretty much essential to this deck. I put together a deck list, I want to say, before the beta even came out. It was just a really simple idea. It was basically Alexstrasza plus a bunch of burn cards. It wasn't a frozen stall deck or anything like that, but it's basically Alexstrasza plus Pyroblasts and stuff like that, because it's such an obvious burn card if you can get it in your hand and play it on turn 9, and it's 15 damage for one card. You know, not assuming they have armor or anything like that. So Alexstrasza is pretty much important. I have won a few games where I didn't get Alexstrasza, or I used it to save myself. This happens occasionally. If you're playing against Warlocks and they're life tapping, you don't really want to use Alexstrasza when they have like 18 life or something like that. You'd rather, you know, get the extra burn and use this to save yourself later in the game. So I used it. I don't always use it against the opponent. And then 1 Pyroblast. This is up for debate. Some people don't like the Pyroblast because it's your whole turn. It's 10 damage, but it's a nice finisher. If you can get, you know, a priest to like 8 life and all you can do is heal to 10, it's really good for that. It's just another win condition. So I think that's it, right? I think we covered everything here. Yeah. So that's the deck. Yeah. So let's play some games. Doomsayer is one of those cards that's, again, not good, so just throw it down to stall the game if you can. He's probably like, what the heck, why did he ice lance the Harvest Golem? I mean, that's an easy read. This has got to be a Vaporize, right? I want him to attack me with this.